My wife disappeared on our anniversary. What I found next ruined everything. Our 10-year anniversary was supposed to be a milestone. I booked a cabin 2 hours outside the city, secluded, peaceful, full of memories. Sarah had always loved nature, and I thought this surprise getaway would remind us of who we were before life got too busy. But on the morning of our trip, she vanished. No note. No message. Her phone was off. Her last words to me the night before were, "Don't plan anything too crazy tomorrow, I might have work." I thought she was joking. At first, I assumed she was just running late or got caught up at her job. But as the hours passed, panic set in. I called her friends, her sister, even her boss. No one had seen or heard from her. I drove to the cabin alone, thinking maybe she'd surprise me there. She didn't. What I did find, though, shattered everything I thought I knew about our marriage. Hidden in her hiking bag, one she hadn't taken in years, was a second phone. Not just a burner phone, but a locked one. My stomach turned cold. I had never suspected her of anything before. Sarah was quiet, organized, loyal. At least I thought so. I spent hours trying to figure out the password. When I finally got in, the truth hit me like a freight train. Everything, every single thing, had been a lie. The phone was filled with messages, photos, and call logs, all pointing to one man. His name was saved as R, with no last name. At first, I thought maybe it was a co-worker, or some old friend she didn't want to tell me about. But the texts erased any doubt. "Last night was incredible. I can still smell you on my skin. I wish I could wake up next to you instead of him. Soon. I'm almost ready." I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. Scrolling through the gallery, I found selfies. Some innocent, laughing at a park, drinking wine, but then it got worse. Hotel rooms. A beach I'd never been to with her. The same necklace I gave her last Christmas. Around her neck, while another man held her waist. I dropped the phone like it burned me. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. This wasn't just cheating. This was another life she had been living in parallel to ours. A second identity. And the scariest part? I didn't even see it coming. I stayed up the entire night in the cabin, rereading the texts, trying to find the first moment she crossed the line. But it was all so calculated. So clean. Sarah had been meeting this man for over 6 months, maybe more. I called her. Straight to voicemail. Then I texted, "I found your second phone." No reply. The next morning, she finally messaged me back. 3 words. "We need to talk." I didn't reply to her message. "We need to talk?" That's all she had to say after everything I just saw? I drove back home with the phone in the glove compartment, glancing at it like it might explode. My mind kept replaying every moment from the last year, the late nights, the sudden weekend shifts, the subtle distance that had grown between us. I thought it was just life wearing us down. But now I realized, she was giving someone else the best parts of herself while I got the scraps. When I got home, she was already there. Sitting on the couch like she'd been waiting for hours, her eyes red and swollen. She didn't look shocked or scared. Just tired. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I didn't sit down. I didn't even take off my shoes. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "Almost a year." A year. 12 months of lies. Birthdays, holidays, normal mornings, all with that secret rotting beneath the surface. "Who is he?" I asked. "His name is Ryan. We met at a marketing conference." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I remembered her showing me a photo from that trip. She was smiling, standing with a group of co-workers. "Was he in that photo too?" "Do you love him?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me, silent. Then she said something that broke me in a way I never expected. "I don't know what love is anymore." Those words cut deeper than the cheating itself. I don't know what love is anymore. It wasn't a confession. It was a death sentence. For us. For everything we'd built. I stood there, staring at the woman I'd promised forever to, and I didn't recognize her. This wasn't the Sarah who used to write me little notes before work. This wasn't the woman who cried during our wedding vows. This was someone else, someone who had gotten lost along the way and never told me. "So what were we?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked down, fingers gripping the edge of her sweater like she could pull herself inside it. "I didn't plan this," she said. "It just happened. I felt invisible. Like I was just part of your routine. And with him, I felt alive again." I nearly punched the wall. "Oh, So I made you feel too safe? Too boring? I snapped. I guess that's what happens when you build a life with someone. It's not all fireworks and hotel rooms, Sarah. She started crying. But I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. I'd spent the last 10 years building a future with this woman. Mortgage. Vacations. Plans for kids. And while I was picturing baby names, she was sneaking away to live a double life. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal, or the fact that she seemed to think it was my fault she cheated. That night, I slept in a guest room. But I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever really known her at all. The next morning, the house felt colder than it should have. Quiet, like even the walls were holding their breath. I made coffee, not because I wanted it, but because it was something to do with my hands. I didn't know the protocol for mornings after betrayal. Do you ask her how she slept? Do you pretend you're roommates now? She came into the kitchen wearing the same hoodie she wore the day I proposed. I told him I can't see him anymore, she said softly. I didn't respond. I ended it. Still, nothing from me. That's when she dropped another bomb. He knows about you. He's known for a while. I turned around slowly. What? I told him I was married, she said, voice trembling. But he said it didn't matter. He didn't care. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had conversations with this guy about me, while she was still in our home, sleeping in our bed, eating dinner with me. The disrespect wasn't just in her actions, it was in her casual ability to involve another man in our lives like it meant nothing. So he didn't care that you were married, I said. Did you? She looked away. And that silence was the loudest answer she could have given me. I left the house that day. No plan, no destination. Just my car and my thoughts. I drove until I hit the coast, sat on the hood of my car and stared at the ocean, wondering when my life had stopped being mine. That's when my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. And the message read, "You deserve better. I'm sorry. I must have read that message a dozen times. You deserve better. I'm sorry. What the hell was that supposed to mean? Was it guilt? Regret? Or just another slap in the face? I stared at the ocean for a long time, gripping the phone like it might give me answers. Eventually, I replied, "Why are you texting me?" The dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then nothing. Minutes passed. Then finally. I didn't know how serious it was until she told me about your anniversary plans. I felt my heart pounding in my chest. You didn't know she was married? I shot back. I did. But I thought you two were on the rocks. She made it sound like a dead marriage. There it was. The narrative she sold him. The lie that let her keep both worlds spinning. And he believed it, maybe because he wanted to. Or maybe because Sarah had become so good at rewriting the truth. I typed out a long, angry reply, but deleted it. Instead, I just asked, "How long has this been going on?" This time, he answered immediately. Since the hotel conference in Seattle. Last October. Almost a full year. Of secrets. Of deception. Of two people playing house while I played the fool. He sent one last message. If I'd known what kind of man you were, I never would have touched her. I'm sorry. And that was it. No more messages. I stood there, staring at the waves crashing against the rocks, trying to make sense of a reality I didn't choose. And then I made a decision. I was going to find out everything. No more secrets. I couldn't go back home. Not yet. I didn't trust myself not to say something I'd regret, or break something I couldn't afford to replace. So instead, I checked into a cheap motel along the highway and opened her second phone again. This time, I wasn't just looking. I was investigating. I wanted the full truth. Every detail. Every timeline. Every lie. I started matching her texts to my calendar. Nights she said she was working late, weekends she claimed she was visiting her sister, even a supposed solo yoga retreat that now aligned perfectly with photos of her and Ryan hiking through Red Rock Canyon. Every fabricated excuse now had a face and a timestamp. Then I found something I hadn't seen before, a video. It was buried deep in a locked folder. The kind you only access if you're intentionally hiding something. I hesitated. Then opened it. The video started with laughter. Her laugh. The one that used to make my chest warm. Then came the image, Sarah, lying on a hotel bed, smiling at the camera. Ryan's voice behind the lens. "Say hi to your husband," he joked. She laughed again, covering her face with a pillow. "Don't be an ass," she said. I paused the video. My hands were shaking. She knew it was wrong. She just didn't care. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, over and over again. I saved the video to my phone and backed up the files. Not because I wanted to use them, but because part of me needed proof this wasn't just a nightmare. I needed to see what she did. I needed to feel the betrayal in full. Because maybe then, I'd stop loving her. I lay awake that night, phone in hand, the video playing over and over in my mind like a cruel loop. I felt every punch, every stab of betrayal deep inside my chest. How could the woman I loved so deeply be someone I barely knew? Part of me wanted to hate her, scream at her, throw every memory we had in the trash and walk away forever. But another part, a smaller, stubborn part, still held on. I remembered her smile on our wedding day, the late night talks, the way she'd brush my hair out of my eyes. The little things that felt like home. Was it love? Or was it denial? I kept telling myself that people make mistakes. That maybe this wasn't who she really was. Maybe it was a phase, or a cry for help. But then I thought about Ryan. The man who sat on the other side of all this, getting everything I thought was mine. I wanted to call him, confront him, yell until my throat was raw. But what good would that do? He wasn't the one I married. He wasn't the one who looked me in the eyes and lied. I didn't know what to do. Should I forgive her? Should I walk away? Or should I try to rebuild something that felt like it was already in ruins? I needed answers. And I needed them fast. The next day, I went back home, determined to talk things through. I needed to hear it from her, straight up. But what I found was not what I expected. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, and a folder was wide open, labeled simply, Truth. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Inside were dozens of documents, photos, and messages, but not from Ryan. These were messages from someone else. Someone named M. The messages revealed a completely different side of Sarah's story, a secret she hadn't told me or Ryan. M was someone she'd been trying to protect me from, a past relationship that had turned toxic, abusive even. She'd finally broken free just months before she met Ryan. She'd been scared, lost, and hiding. Ryan wasn't just a fling, he was a lifeline, someone who helped her escape that darkness. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces started to fit in a different way. Sarah wasn't just cheating out of boredom or neglect. She was running from something far worse. I sat down, overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. Had I been so wrapped up in my pain that I missed what she was really going through? I spent hours going through those files, reading her side of the story. The emotional scars, the fear she'd lived with, the silence she'd kept. It was like meeting a stranger, the woman I loved, but also a woman I barely knew. I realized then how little we truly shared with each other, how much she had carried alone. But that didn't erase the pain. If anything, it made it worse. Because I understood now why she acted the way she did. Why she was distant, distracted, why she sought escape. But it also meant the betrayal wasn't about me, at least not entirely. It was about her survival. I thought about confronting her with this new knowledge, but I wasn't sure I was ready. How do you forgive someone when their mistakes are wrapped in trauma? And how do you trust someone again when the foundation of your relationship has cracked so badly? That night, I stared at the ceiling, feeling torn between heartbreak and empathy. Was love enough to heal this? Or was it already too late? The next evening, I sat her down. I told her I found the folder, everything. No more secrets, no more lies. She didn't deny it. Instead, she finally broke down and told me the whole story. She talked about M, her ex who was controlling and cruel, the nightmare she had barely escaped. She explained how she met Ryan while trying to rebuild her life, how he helped her feel safe and hopeful again. But then, the guilt took over. She said she felt trapped between two worlds, unsure how to be honest with me without losing everything. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I thought I was protecting you from the past. But I was only protecting myself. For the first time in months, I saw the woman I loved, scared, broken, but still fighting. I didn't have the answers. I just knew we were at a crossroads. Could we find a way back? Or was this the end? She reached for my hand. I hesitated, then took it. Because sometimes, holding on is the first step to healing. In the days that followed, Sarah and I started talking, really talking, for the first time in months. No more secrets, no more revisions. We were raw, vulnerable, and terrified. She agreed to get help for her trauma. Therapy, counseling, anything to face her past head-on. I promised to be there, even if it was painful. But every step forward felt shaky. The wounds were deep, and trust was still shattered. Sometimes, I caught her staring off into space, haunted by memories she couldn't escape. And sometimes, I felt my anger bubbling up, a reminder that forgiveness isn't a straight path. One night, I asked her, "Do you still want us?" She looked me in the eyes, her voice trembling. "I don't know yet. But I want to try." It wasn't a perfect answer. It wasn't a promise. But it was enough. For now, just when I thought we were making progress, reality hit harder than I expected. Friends and family started picking sides. Some told me to leave, that forgiveness was weakness. Others urged patience, saying Sarah needed time. Their opinions echoed in my head, making everything more confusing. At work, I found it hard to focus. Every smile, every casual conversation felt like a mask I was forced to wear. I felt like I was living two lives, one pretending everything was okay, the other breaking apart. One evening, Sarah came home late. I asked where she'd been. She hesitated, then confessed she met with the ex. My heart dropped. She said it was for closure, to finally cut ties. I wanted to believe her, but the doubt gnawed at me. How could I trust her when the past kept creeping back? That night, I lay awake wondering if some wounds never truly heal, or if we just learn to live with the scars. The following days were a whirlwind. The fragile truce between us cracked under the weight of unspoken fears and simmering resentment. One night, after a heated argument, Sarah shouted, "I'm not the only one broken here." Her words hit me like a slap. It was true. I was hurting too, torn between anger, love, and confusion. I realized then that healing wasn't just about her. It was about both of us facing the truth, no matter how painful. We decided to take a break, time apart to figure out what we really wanted. It wasn't easy. The silence in the house was deafening. But in that silence, I found clarity. I had to ask myself, could I forgive her? Could I forgive myself for what I'd missed? And most importantly, could we rebuild what was shattered, or was it truly over? Months passed. We took that break, space to heal, reflect, and decide if we still wanted the same future. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, tears, and moments of doubt. But slowly, Sarah and I started rebuilding trust. Therapy sessions turned into honest conversations. Apologies became actions. The love that had once felt buried began to resurface, fragile but real. I won't pretend everything is perfect now. It's a daily choice, a constant effort. But sometimes love means facing the darkest parts of yourself, and choosing to fight anyway. If you're watching this and going through something similar, remember, you're not alone. Healing isn't linear, but it's possible. Thanks for listening to my story. If you want to hear more true-to-life stories with raw emotion and unexpected twists, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world.